The book club you can carry anywhere. We are your hosts and hopefully your new bookish pals. I'm Hannah MacDonald.
And I'm Lydia Clare. Welcome to the first in our brand new series, the Monthly Culture Roundup, where we each bring a handful of recommendations we've been enjoying over the last month. We'll be covering books, films, TV, podcasts, and everything in between. Before we get started, though, Hannah, what are you currently reading?
That was so formal, I love it. Hello.
Hiya.
We're back.
Chatty pod, chatty pod.
Chatty Pod, we're back. This is how we have managed to squeeze in an episode each month of just the two of us because we've been trying to make this work for the longest time. And after a late night thinking session, I was like, right, this is how we can do it. This is how it's
We're
going to
just
go.
doing it.
It wasn't late at night. It was on a drive home. I think I sent you a
Oh,
voice note.
yeah. It was a
Voice note in the car.
I was walking the dog.
Listen here, this is what's happening, Lyd. Okay, so I am.
Hannah,
Oh,
come
go
on, tell me what
sorry.
you're currently reading.
Okay, I am reading finally Good Material by Dolly Alderton.
Oh my gosh, it's only took you a year.
I know, our Lord and Saviour. I might know somebody who is a bookseller that managed to nab me a copy of this, but I'm not naming names. So this actually came out in November, and it's took me this long to get round to it, and I've had my hands on it since before it came out, so that's good. Very much enjoying it. I have sped through nearly 200 pages now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like, and I started it a couple of days ago. I've like sped through it. And I've been like reading it in work as well, when I definitely shouldn't have been, but here we are. It is so great. I think it's potentially her best yet. It is her second novel and her fourth book. It's published by Penguin Fig Tree, and it is about a male comedian who is going through a breakup, and it's got her just incredible humour. She just understands people so well, and just the dialogue is so witty and sharp, and it is just exactly how insufferable I imagine a man to be going through a breakup. And she's apparently interviewed like 20 men in order to write this, which I really respect, because it's, you know, nobody can critique the way she's written a man. She's really tried to get into the mindset of a man. So,
and I mean, that's, you know, falling on your sword, isn't it? Imagine that, 20 men. God, I wouldn't want to do that.
Jesus. But it's so good, and I would really, really recommend it. I mean, everyone knows that I love Dolly Alderton anyway, so I might be slightly biased, but I would very much recommend it. And the cover is gorgeous as well. We love a cover.
Ooh,
Lydia, what are you currently reading?
what am I currently reading?
I'm
currently reading Piglet by Lottie Hazel.
Oh, bloody hell.
Which it's literally just come out end of January, and it's so far I'm about 50 pages in. I'm loving it so far. I think you will love it. It's very foodie.
Love that.
Like so foodie. It's ridiculous. Like all she thinks about, the main protagonist, her nickname is Piglet, and that's how she's referred to. And all she thinks about is food, and how things concern food, and how every gathering has to be around food and what they're going to eat. So this is definitely just Hannah in a book.
100%.
It's so good. And I think something diabolical is just about to happen. So I'm kind of like waiting for that to happen. But yeah, so far so good. I'm enjoying it. It is published by Bloomsbury, I think, and
Doubleday.
Is it Doubleday?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the front cover of it is the best cover.
So nice.
It's just a load of donuts in a tower.
So nice.
So it makes me hungry every time I read it. So
every time, you know, every time I eat it.
Every time I eat it. Every time I read it makes me hungry. But yeah, so that's what I'm reading so far, and it's actually really good. I'm really enjoying it.
And it's a debut, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Gorgeous. I've also heard an interesting fact on a podcast the other day that she is also a board game designer.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I've never heard of before. I've never heard of that job title, but of course there's somebody doing it. So
there's always someone. There's always a job.
Just like how did you get into that? Like mental. So Lyd, let's get on to our recommendations. I feel like our list each month could grow.
Yeah, it was.
Very risky with the pair of us because we seem to be obsessed with everything.
Yeah.
It's our favourite word to use. But do you want to start us off with your
I can
first?
do. I mean, if Bookends listening can't tell, this is not rehearsed.
Why is that? Does that sound terrible?
No. I just mean, you know what we're like when we get chatting. So, yeah, I think the thing that I have to talk about, and I think maybe it might be on your list of things to talk about as well, and on the list of everybody's to talk about, is the movie Saltburn, because everyone's been talking about it,
Mhm.
and it's just been like this kind of phenomenon that's taken
Mhm.
over the world, with people running around the houses dancing to Sophie Ellis Bextor.
Mhm.
I mean, I was doing that before it was cool, but, you know.
I'm so glad that song's made a comeback. But do you know
Right?
what? Because I didn't like it the first time round, but now it's a
Oh,
bop.
oh my god, it's a full-on bop. Full on, it
Mhm.
was my first ever album, Sophie
That is
Ellis
that is
Bextor.
mental to me.
I
Really didn't
know.
like it. Do you know what? I was so specific when I was younger about the songs that I didn't like. I used to hate as well for the same reason, which again can't be explained. It's just a vibe thing. Is
Yeah.
"Spinning Around" by Kylie Minogue.
Oh, you see what? I was the same, but, Can't Get You Out of My Head. Couldn't stand it. Could not
It's not
stand it.
"Spinning Around." It's "Can't Get You Out of My Head." That's the one I'm
Oh,
thinking
well,
of.
there you go.
No, "Spinning
Yeah,
Around."
same.
Okay, it's not that. It's "Can't Get You Out of My Head." No, you're
Yeah, I
right.
was Spinning Around is the one with the teeny tiny gold shorts.
No, I did like that one.
Is
"Can't Get
she
You Out of My Head."
annoying?
That's the one. I didn't
Yeah,
like the.
same.
It's one of them earworms that's like horrible.
Yeah. Yeah,
Earworm, not
and I
in a
also
good way.
didn't understand why in the video she was driving a taxi, and then all of a sudden she was in nothing but, like, half a sheet rolling around. It was
Oh.
just a very strange video.
So Saltburn, talk to me.
Saltburn. So Saltburn. So I went in pretty blind to it, not really knowing what it was about, and kind of just went with it, and I loved it. I've
Yeah.
heard quite a few naysayers who are kind of like, "Oh, it's just, grotesque for the sake of being grotesque,"
Mm.
or, and I do it in that voice because those people have annoyed me. But I just thought it was just fantastic. It was a brilliant look at class and at snobbery and inward snobbery
Mm.
and all sorts of things like that, and it was fascinating, and I thought that there were some absolutely compelling performances in it. I mean, it was just
I
amazing.
cannot pronounce his surname, but Barry Keoghan, Keoghan,
Keown, yeah, I think that's how you
Barry
say it.
Keoghan is phenomenal.
Yeah,
Like his performance in that is absolutely stellar.
yeah, like, he's incredible. Although I saw a funny thing about it and about Saltburn, and it was like, I really, really love Saltburn, but I stopped believing in his character when he drew the line at a runny egg.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah."
So
No.
random. Also, I found out that the graveyard scene was improvised by him.
Yes, yes, same, yeah, I heard that. I mean, who improvises that? You've got to wonder what's going on
You
in his
would not
mind.
catch me doing that in improv. Absolutely. You are off your rocker, mate. I am not doing that. Not a chance.
But yeah, I thought it was incredible. I thought it was well acted and brilliantly directed. Is it Emerald Fennell that's done it?
Emerald Fennel, yeah.
Yeah, which sounds like a sim name, but she's amazing, and yeah, that I loved every second of it. So I can't stop banging on about it and getting people to watch it. And I think that it's one of them films that's going to become like a cult film in like
Mhm.
10 years time. People are going to be like, "Oh yeah, Saltburn," and it's
Yeah,
going to be like
yeah.
cool again. But right now, it's really good.
And it's on Amazon Prime at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's one that I would have really enjoyed in the cinema, but I also watched it when it came out on Prime.
Mm,
But I feel like it would have been a good cinema trip. And I watched it with Billy, and he is a big fan of horror films. He's always watching horror films. He's always watching really gory stuff. Loves a lot of like Korean or Japanese horror because basically the more gore, the better. But
yeah.
even him paused it twice because he was so like, I've never
What is
seen anything
going on?
like that on
Yeah.
screen. That
And
they took it
and
to
that's
the
what's
next
great
level.
But that's what great cinema's about. It's about, like, testing boundaries, and it's not testing them for the sake of testing them. It's doing it because it makes sense for the character and it makes
Hmm.
sense for the narrative. And the things that that character does when you get to the end and you see the reasons why, it
Hmm.
all of a sudden everything just clicks into place and you're like, "Oh yeah, all of that does make sense
Hmm.
why that happened." So yeah, so I am a stalwart defender of Saltburn.
I love
How
that.
about you, Han? What have you been enjoying lately?
So the first thing on my list that I want to talk about is the first film that I watched this year, and that was Good Grief on Netflix.
Oh, good grief.
I love Dan Levy so much. I think he's such an incredible creative. What him and his dad did with, well, it was him, his dad, and his sister that created Schitt's Creek, but they did such a phenomenal job of it. I loved it so much. I was like sobbing my heart out when Schitt's Creek ended. So as soon as I saw the trailer for this, I just knew I was going to love it. And it's his directorial debut, which is very exciting. I think he also wrote the screenplay as well. And I just thought it was so amazing and such a beautiful look at grief and at friendship and at love in all its different forms. I thought that, and this might be controversial saying this because Dan Levy is the lead and I love him so much, but the standout performance for me was Ruth Negga,
Mhm.
who played his best friend in it. And she was just so brilliant, so funny, and just the performance that she gave was just beautiful.
Yeah,
Just amazing. And is it Himesh Patel? Is that how you
I
say his
love
name?
Patel.
He's so great. And it was just beautiful. And, I did think for a little bit after I first watched it that I wish that we'd seen more of, is it, it's not Dan Evans, is it? That's not his name. Something Evans.
Luke
Luke
Evans.
Evans, that's it. Dan Levy and Luke Evans' characters' relationship. I did feel when I first watched that, I wish we'd seen more of their
Mhm.
relationship, more of what had kind of happened previously. Because when we first meet them, we meet them on the night. I don't think it's giving too much of a spoiler to say that like he
No.
dies. I think it's shown in the trailer that he dies. Dan Levy's partner in the film dies, and we first meet him on the night that he dies. So that's all we kind of see is this one evening of them together with their friends at this party. And then that's kind of it. And there's like flashbacks, but I think the flashbacks are just in the lead up to the party, from what I can remember. But actually, when I really thought about it, I thought he is actually showing a really beautiful thing, which is the aftermath of a loss and seeing his friends come around him and take care of him and look after him. And that was the kind of the real love story and the real focus of the film was the friendship in there.
Yeah.
And I don't think we see that very much on screen. So yeah, I thought it was such a beautiful film, really moving. I am not great at crying in real life. I need something to help me get the tears out, and that was the film that helped me get the tears out to the point where I asked Billy to leave the room when it finished so that I could rewind the last 5 minutes and have a little cry.
I love that. I literally listened to today the episode, the brand new episode of the new series of Elizabeth Day's How to Fail podcast,
With
and he's
Dan,
on it,
it's so
and
good.
it's such a great conversation. So if you want to hear more about like why, like his reasons why he created it and a bit more in detail about that film, he does go into detail about it on
Mm,
that podcast and it about his own failures, which are just amazing.
yeah, he's so
Um,
great.
yeah, it's such a good episode.
Love him. What's next up on your list, Lid?
Oh, next on my list, what have I been enjoying? Well, talking of podcasts, I have been loving recently the book review podcast from the New York Times.
Mm,
It's been a recent discovery. I know it's kind of like a tried and tested pride of place kind of podcast in many people's Spotify playlists, but for me, I was not aware of it. And my colleague at Waterstones was like, "If you like books, why do you not listen to this?" And I started listening to it, and it's a problem because now I want all the books they talk about.
yeah.
It's amazing, and, yeah, so I've whiled away many a dog walk listening to especially their like they do really good like wrap ups. Like the 2023 wrap up is a really good episode of kind of like the best stuff out there, and it's nice because it is kind of like the literary sort of more literary critical books,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't come across as like snobby. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not unapproachable. Like they give really good reasons for their choices. Like one of the books that they've been talking about has been Burn and Wood by Eleanor Catton. I'm so excited to read that. I think that's going to be like one of the next ones I read because
That's
of
just come out
how
in paperback, hasn't it?
it is. Yeah, it's Waterstones' fiction book of the month for February.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be reading that for that reason, but also because they wanged on about how great it is. So I'm like, yes.
I need to steal your copy after that because that sounds like something that I would be intrigued by.
Not intrigued.
It's made a comeback.
It's made to come back for 2024.
Oh God.
So yes, I've been loving that. How about you?
So the second thing on my list is a bit rogue,
Oh,
but
go on.
we love a rogue choice,
We do.
and my choice is Paul Mescal on Chicken Shop Date.
Oh my gosh, I love him.
I love him so much. I
Yeah.
Now there's been a lot of talks in the last week or so, and a lot of funny videos circulating on TikTok about a specific news headline or kind of something that a previous defence minister has been noted saying, and it's been causing me a lot of lost sleep and anxiety because I am terrified. But
Mhm.
apparently we're all being drafted to war at some point, so that's good.
We're not. We're not.
So all I need to say on that matter is we must protect Paul Mescal at all costs because I cannot bear the thoughts of this man, of any harm ever coming to this man.
He'll be fine. He's Irish. He's not. He won't get drafted.
But I cannot have any harm come to him if there's any kind of. He lives
We
in
must.
London, Lydia.
We
I
must
can't have
put
any
him
harm
in
coming
bubble
to
wrap.
him. If he's got an Irish passport, but he lives in London, does that mean he's safe?
I don't know what the plan would be.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, they can't have him, so that's
I'm
that.
sure as an Irish
Um,
citizen, he could go to Ireland and stay there safe.
Yeah. Well, anyway, protected plans aside, I very much enjoyed this video. I think, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this now, but is it Amelia de Moldenberg?
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
butchering nothing.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure that I'd got the name right because I didn't look it up. I just guessed it from memory. And I think what she does is so amazing. Her whole style of interview really makes me think of how we try to interview.
Mm,
And I think she really manages to get a different side to people in her interviews with them. And I found that the same with the Hot Ones
yeah.
interviewer. I think it's not a very formal structure. I mean, I suppose the Hot Ones interviewer, and forgive me, I can't remember his name,
Sean Evans.
John Evans, he's brilliant, but his is slightly more formal, but Amelia's isn't. And I
Mm,
think you get something totally different from people when you give them a casual setting. And I
yeah.
think, that's what we've wanted to do from day one on this podcast is we're two working class northerners and you don't see many people like us in the literary world. So
Mhm.
we wanted to bring that. That's our USP, I suppose. We wanted to bring that to our podcast,
Yeah.
and I think that that makes a lot of our authors relax because they know they're in safe hands. They know that we're not super formal. They know that we're not like super strict in the way that a conversation flows or whatever. But that's how I feel when I watch Amelia. I think she's so charismatic, so funny, so brilliant, and I just loved seeing the banter between the two of them. And there's a moment and it's only 8 minutes long. Like that's the beauty of it. We have so much, so many
We're
films that are
called
coming
for like
out. It's
40 minutes as well.
but how they managed to like cram that into like 8 minutes? It's so brilliant, and it's something that like I think our attention spans have got so much worse with like TikTok and Instagram Reels and all the rest of it. We can't concentrate for long periods of time. So sometimes it actually is really nice to just sit down for less than 10 minutes and just really enjoy something. And
Yeah.
that's what that was for me. I was like, it was so funny and so great. And there's a moment where she hands him a script and wants him to audition for the film that she's making. And it just made me laugh so much. And I just want to protect them both. I
Yeah.
think they're both wonderful,
She
wonderful people.
Amelia de Moldenberg did a great interview on the Louis Theroux podcast where she talked about like how she interviews and how she goes about interviewing, and
I
that's
need
a
to
really,
listen to that.
yeah, it's really good. Also, Louis Theroux's just done his first episode in his new series of his podcast, and Paul Mescal is the guest. And it is amazing. I listened to it last night, and he talks honestly, and he does like that cool Louis Theroux thing of like with Louis Theroux's podcast. If you listen to it, like he starts the podcast when the guest is walking in, so
Love
like they
that.
have to like put Paul's like, "Hi, how are you doing?" and stuff, and like they sit down, they have a chat first, but that's all recorded. That's all part of the
Oh my God,
podcast.
I love that so much.
It's, like, super cool, and, like, he really does, he delves into a bit more about Paul's past and about his, because obviously he was a Gaelic footballer, and then he chose to be an actor rather than pursue that career and things like that, and it's really, really good, actually. So those 2 episodes of Louis Theroux podcast would go hand in hand with the stuff that you've recommended.
I am definitely going to be listening to that this evening on my little drive. Lydia, what is next up for you?
Next up for me is, well, basically is a book that I've just finished reading and really enjoyed, and that's called God Killer by Hannah Kaner.
Mm.
And it is a fantasy book about a young girl whose family are killed and who basically becomes a killer of gods. So there are these gods in the world that can control elements such as like fire, water, earth, air, things like that. And the more they are worshipped, the bigger and more powerful they become. And her job is to go around and stop them from becoming these huge kind of entities. And she happens to come across a couple of other people along the journey, and they become part of her story too. And I tell you what, I went into it thinking this is going to be a bit of a tricky one. It was one I was reading for Waterstones. It was Waterstones' science fiction book of the month, and I was sort of like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. Honestly, brill, really enjoyable, fast paced, great characters, brilliant world building, and I thoroughly enjoyed every part of it.
Love that.
No, it was a real surprise, and I'm not one for science fiction as a rule. I will give it a go, and I'm probably more likely to go for it than maybe you are, Han.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say that I was kind of like, "Oh, I'm not sure." But honestly, really good.
Stunning.
I know. What about you? Anything else on your list?
I have got a book that I have recently read that I want to chat about, and that
Oh,
is
go on.
My Husband by Maud Ventura, which came out July last year and was very kindly sent to me by the publisher, Hutchinson Heinemann. I think that's how you say the name. And it's took me until now to read it, so that's very good. I apologise to them. But it was really great. I really enjoyed it. It is about a woman who is obsessed with her husband and is like in the most like obscene detail. She keeps all these notebooks. She's a book translator and a teacher, and she keeps about 5 different notebooks that are all different colors, and she notes down different things that he does throughout the day, like stuff that he says to her, moments where he's kind of not given her the attention that she wants. And they've got like 2 children together. And I thought it was a really interesting look at motherhood in the sense of somebody that isn't comfortable with being a mother, doesn't find that role
You mean like instinctive, don't you?
instinctive. That's the word I'm looking for. It doesn't come to her naturally at
Yeah.
all. and she kind of almost resents the fact that she has to be a mother. And there's a moment in the book where she literally, like, her child comes to her and she's got a stomach ache and she wants like comforting, so she takes her child up to bed and then like tries to like soothe her back to sleep, and then goes to leave the room, and then the child shouts for her as soon as she gets to the door and wants to spend time with her husband again, and then she comes back to the bed and like grips her child's wrist and is like, go to sleep,
Oh my
and he's like
God.
really aggressive with her. But it's like moments like that, and all the way through you're kind of kept guessing, and you're like,
Mm.
what is going to happen here? Like, it's unhinged.
I
It is,
love
it
Unhinged.
is unhinged. Like, it's not, and I know like we make a joke and we say that like everything's unhinged these days, but like genuinely this character is unhinged. Like, it's not normal behavior. It's crazy, but really, really enjoyable. And I think that this will definitely be a bit of you, Lid.
Oh, it sounds like a bit of me. I
Mm.
love it. Obsession, bit of aggression. Great. I'm like,
Perfect.
yes, give it to me.
Okay, what is next on your list?
So next up is a film I've recently watched that I can't stop banging on about to people, which it's called Society of the Snow, and it is a Spanish language film, and it is incredible. It's about the crash in the Andes, the plane crash in the Andes
Of
that
course it
happened.
is. Of
Of
course it
course
is.
it is. It's a plane crash. Come on, like, I'm not gonna have watched it. Um, and unless you're like me and you have the encyclopedic knowledge of said plane crash, a plane crashed in the Andes in 1970s,
Did you already
and
know this?
yeah,
Of course, right,
of course
fine.
it did. And had,
You've been
um
waiting for this to come out, haven't you?
I was waiting for
Yeah.
it, and I believe it was the Chilean football team that were on the plane, and it crashes in the Andes, and basically they are left there because their rescue mission cannot find them, and they are left there for 72 days or something.
Mhm.
And what basically they have to turn to survive is cannibalism. So eating the dead that are with them. So their friends and relatives basically. And this genuinely happened. And you can find interviews with the guys that had to resort to that, about why they chose to do that, about why they had to do that. And it's all such a fascinating subject. But this film fictionalizes it and tells it through a narrator, and it is just so well done.
Mhm.
Like, it's psychologically brutal, but the acting is incredible. The pacing is so fantastic. I mean, 2.5 hours of just some guys stuck in a metal tube. This is what it is. Like, they don't go anywhere. They can't go anywhere. They're stuck in what is essentially the remnants of a plane,
Mhm.
slowly but surely starving to death, watching their friends die around them. And it is just incredible. And I think it's been nominated for an Emmy. I'm not sure. It's
Mm.
nominated for something, but it's just incredible. It's so worth the watch. Like, give it the chance, because I know that Spanish language films, a lot of people will struggle because of subtitles, but
Mhm.
you can get it in the dub version. But if you can, do it in the actual Spanish language, because it's absolutely brilliant.
I
It's
think
so,
that
so
goes for
good.
any translated series, not translated series, but like any foreign language series
Yeah,
or
yeah.
films. I think you should be watching it with subtitles on, because I just think it gives you exactly what they're trying to get across, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
exactly.
It's like one of my favorite series of all time is Money Heist, and that's
Mhm.
in Spanish. And I think if you had to watch that in like the English language version,
Mm.
you wouldn't get the same effect at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, and I understand that obviously there's access requirements, so,
Yeah.
I know people in my life who've got dyslexia and stuff, they really would not be able to watch it
Hmm.
with the subtitles, but if you can, then do, because it
Absolutely.
is so worth it. But yeah, that's obviously plane crash, cannibalism, you've got, terrible things happening, it's morbid, it's terrifying, sad, contemplative, it's everything that I love. So, yeah, give it a watch if you wanna be miserable for 2.5 hours.
I love that so much. That sounds great. And that's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix, yeah, yeah.
Fabulous. Wonderful. That reminds me of
Mhm.
Yellow Jackets
Right.
a little bit. Have you watched Yellow Jackets?
I have not.
That is so up your street,
I
Lydia.
know, but isn't it on some weird channel?
It's on Prime, I think.
Oh, is it?
Is it on Prime? Now
I
you've got
don't
me.
know.
Now you've got me thinking. Let me double check.
I thought it was on something like Paramount.
You're right.
How crazy is that I was right?
Oh, behave. No, you're wrong. No, you are
Oh
right.
no!
It's
I
on
was
Paramount
right.
Plus now, and it's on Prime.
Oh right, okay, I'll
You
give it
can
a
watch it on
watch.
Prime. It is okay. I hope you've watched some of it when we return for
Oh,
February.
it's just my homework.
It's your homework. I just know you will love that. I know
Yeah,
it. It's so you,
I have heard a lot about
and it
it, and I have
must.
had people tell me it's
From the
good.
sound of Society of the Snow, it must be based on that because it's about
Oh,
a young girls' sports team at a like high school in America, and their plane crashes into like the middle of
oh,
nowhere, and that also has cannibalism in it.
oh well, yeah.
So it's got to be. There's got to be some
Think
sort
crash
of
cannibalism.
source material in there. So that's your homework, Lyd. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that.
Um,
Really appreciate it.
the last thing on my list is, which probably will come as a surprise to nobody, it's a podcast, and it is our previous guest, Caroline O'Donoghue's podcast, Sentimental Garbage, and it's her episode with our Lord and Saviour Dolly Alderton. They did an episode on Robbie Williams, and I am not a massive Robbie fan, nor have I yet. I'm yet to watch his Netflix documentary, which they made me
Mm,
really want to watch. My mum was always a massive Robbie fan, and I grew up listening to his music in the car. But I've never been a huge fan personally. Not that I don't like him, just that I've never really listened to him. And apart from my mum playing him non-stop. But this was such a fangirly episode, and I absolutely lapped it up. I think those two are so brilliant together, as in Caroline and Dolly. I
mhm.
think they are so great together. I loved when they did Sentimental in the City. So every time I know that they've got an episode on there together, I just can't wait to listen to it.
Yeah.
But it was so good, and Dolly has a very funny personal story about Robbie Williams, which I thoroughly enjoyed listening to, but I'm not going to spoil it because I think people will just want to listen to that for themselves. I think the banter between them both is just so great, but they managed
Mhm.
to keep it quite, like, it just feels like such a thoroughly researched episode, and they just seem to. Caroline is so good at just understanding everything to the most intense level of detail, like understanding pop culture to the most like mega level of detail. Like I've never known anybody like it, and I
Yeah.
think she's just so fascinating to listen to. She just seems to be like what's the phrase, a something of knowledge, a fountain of knowledge.
Yeah.
I was going to say a well of knowledge, so that's good. I
You
am.
could say fountain or well. I think any kind of stone-related water feature would work in this analogy.
But that's what I think she is. I am. I think, as everyone heard on our episode with Caroline, I'm a big fan of hers, and I love Dolly as well. And it was just such a great episode. And I love it when you listen to people that are friends and really close friends, and you really get a sense of that when you listen to it, and you kind of feel like you're like having like a drink with them, and like you're
Yeah.
having a good time with them. You're not. They don't know who you are, but. But you get a sense of that, and
Yeah.
it was a really enjoyable listen, and I started to learn a lot more about Robbie than I kind of knew about him. I thought
Mhm.
that he was this quite like big ego, and he's not in the way that they describe him. And they've got the fact, like, they come with facts, they come with research, like they know exactly what they're talking about. And I'm really intrigued to watch his documentary now, because I think there's a lot that happened to him in terms of um the press, and his journey with fame
Mm.
and addiction and all the kind of rest of it. And he had a really tough journey, so I really enjoyed listening to their perspective on it. So yeah,
Ooh.
that is my recommendation, and you can find that in all good podcast apps.
Alongside a pair of bookends pod.
Yes. Okay, Lyd, what
Yeah.
is your next recommendation? Is this your
So
final, or have you got
I
another
think,
one?
yeah, no, this is my final one. So this is basically what I've been obsessed with every evening. I have to put an episode on, and it is a Korean
I
drama
thought you were going to
called,
talk about this.
yeah, called Extraordinary. Attorney Woo. And people who know Extraordinary Attorney Woo will all be like, yay! Because it's like got this cult fandom. But it is essentially about a young woman called Woo Young Woo, who is an attorney. She is also has autism, and it's about her kind of navigating work and life as someone on the autistic spectrum and as someone who is just like amazing because she's fantastic in it. The actress who plays her does not have autism, but I think does a really great job of playing this character and this character's autism.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make that very clear because a lot of people would be, I think, have criticized the show in places because they've been like, oh well, not all autistic people are like this, they don't all
Mm-hmm.
have these certain traits, but this character does. So, and that's the way that I see it and the way that the actress who plays her sees it, and it is just phenomenal. It's sweet, it's cute, it's so beautiful in places. She's obsessed with whales. She has like this full on obsession with blue whales and well, all types of whales, but particularly blue whales. And it is so just brilliant the way that they have like huge CGI effects of like a whale will like float past her as she's thinking, and it's just incredible. The storylines themselves kind of are quite formulaic. They're just regular kind of like as if it was just a regular attorney program, you know, some guy's in trouble, he needs some help, she finds the solution to help him, like your bog standard stuff, but it's done in such a wonderful way that it's phenomenal. I can't recommend it enough. And again, it's in Korean. Don't, if you can help it, don't listen to it dubbed because it's terrible. But please do listen to it in the Korean. But it's so good. It's a brilliant to see something that celebrates diversity and
Mm-hmm.
celebrates inclusion in a way that I don't think we're seeing in Western dramas.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen it where it's not kind of like the great thing about Extraordinary Attorney Woo is that the fact that she's autistic is never usually the point.
Yeah.
Whereas I think in a lot of things, as particularly some Western programs I could mention that have autistic characters, it tends to be like their thing, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're super clever because they're autistic, or they're because they're autistic. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, no, she just happens to be very good at what she does, but she's also autistic. But yeah, so I've been loving that recently, and I've only got like 3 episodes left, so I'm gonna be bereft when that
Love
finishes.
that. I've
Yeah.
just remembered that I actually do have a last one, so we do
Of
have the
course.
same amount. We do have the same amount.
Oh, good. Go on.
Which is good. We love that. We love a rounded number. One thing I wanted to talk about that I've been enjoying this month is the TV series Blue Lights.
Mhm.
I've been enjoying that. It is available to watch on
Oh, yeah, Extraordinary Attorney Woo's on Netflix, by the way.
Excellent. Blue Lights is available to watch on BBC iPlayer.
Ah.
It is so good. It is set in Belfast, and it is a police drama set in Belfast, and it is about how this particular division in the police is quite corrupt, and in this particular area there is a gang who are we're still finding out, because I'm 2 episodes away from the end, but we're still sort of finding out that there's definitely a link between the police and this community, this gang, and this gang's sort of area is out of bounds to the police, and they're not to intervene with what this gang is doing, but what this
Mm.
gang is doing is getting more and more messed up, and it is just so great. The acting is incredible. I think there is so much incredible stuff that is coming out of Ireland in the last few years, and I'm so like happy that we're celebrating all these amazing Irish creatives, and these actors are just honestly like stellar. Like I don't know what is in the blood in Ireland. Like why is everybody so good at everything? Like can we just give some talent to the rest of us for the love of God?
I know, just a
Um
bit. Come on.
just a bit, come on. Like, it's so great, and the story is so brilliant. Like, I feel completely engaged throughout. It's only 6 episodes in the first season. The second season comes out later this year, and the reason I'm watching the first season is because my friend is in the second season, so I'm very excited. So I'm not allowed to mention their name, but I'm very excited for that. And it's just so great, really good telly. And it's a working class community in Belfast. I think it's a great way of exploring class and about like how ordinary people live their lives and how they're just kind of left to rot by the
Mm,
government. And it gave a different look and a different perspective on the police, because I think we see so many police dramas, aside from Happy Valley, because I think Happy Valley gave quite positive representation to police. I think a lot of the stuff that we see is really negative representation of police. And that's not to say that these stories don't exist, because they absolutely do. You know, I've heard and seen firsthand, you know, issues that arise within the police and how, you know, corrupt things can be. But this was talking about corruption at like a very senior level in the police.
mm,
The actual police on the ground seem to genuinely care about the community and genuinely want to help people. And I think, you know, that's a really nice thing to see. I
yeah.
don't think that's represented very often. So I was very much enjoying that, and I'm really excited to see how this season wraps up.
This is exciting.
I know.
Well, I'm actually very pleased with our choices because I thought we would have more overlap and we haven't, which is
I'm
good.
surprised.
Yeah, so I do love, and I really hope that Bookends listening have managed to get some good recommendations off the back
Mhm.
of that, and we've been able to whet your appetite for some stuff because genuinely, when I listen to like these kind of like sorts of podcasts, like cultural roundups, recommendations, things, I always love to get my recommendations from them and then to go off and consume everything
Consume.
that's been asked of me.
We love
Um,
to consume.
we do. But before we go, Hannah, could you tell me, is there some stuff that you're excited about that's coming up that we might even be hearing about in our February roundup? Tell us.
I am looking forward to this Wednesday. I am going to the cinema to watch All of Us Strangers.
Don't, no.
And
You're going without me?
I
I'm
am.
going to die.
It's been planned. It's been planned for a while, and I'm very
I'm so glad.
excited. I am going to be an emotional wreck, 1,000%. All I've seen over the weekend is people saying how much this film has made them cry. It's got Paul Mescal, it's got Andrew Scott, it's got Claire Foy. It's a stellar cast. I've said
Yeah.
stellar about 4 times today, so that's the
But
word of
I've got
the episode.
I have ordered the book into the Waterstones where I work, and I have put it on the shelf that
Oh
I'm
my
reading it
goodness.
because literally, like, I have to read the adaptation before I watch it, though. I have to.
So maybe that can be an adaptation episode.
Mm.
Stay tuned. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. I'm also really excited to watch Poor Things. I want to watch that at some
Yeah.
point in the next month. I listened to the Everything is Content podcast and really enjoyed listening to them speak about Poor Things. I know that that is also a book that's been adapted into a film,
Mhm.
um, which I think you told me about.
Yeah, Alistair
Yes.
Gray it is. Yeah.
And I just really enjoyed hearing them speak about it, and it just sounds so like exciting and just not what I thought it was going to be. So I really want to get to see that in the next month. I am also incredibly excited for the new season of Trigger Point, which started last night, and I've not watched it yet, so I'm really excited for that. I think Vicky McClaw is golden.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved the first season, and it is a series that, if I could beg to be in any TV series that's on right now, it would be that. Like, I think
Yeah.
it's so great, and genuinely, the first season had me on the edge of my seat. Every episode, I could not breathe watching them. Very excited to watch that. And there's also 2 books that I am looking forward to reading, which are both published next month. Well, both published in February, because I believe we'll be releasing this episode on the 1st of Feb. So these books are, I've been kindly sent them by the publisher. So the first one is I See Buildings Fall Like Lightning by Kieran Goddard. That is an excellent title. It is published by Abacus Books, and it has some excellent endorsements on there, including your favourite Max Porter has said this book glows in the heart of the reader. I read Kieran Goddard's debut Hourglass and really enjoyed that. And I See Buildings Fall Like Lightning is about poverty and about hope and friendship and class and all the stuff that we love reading about. So I am very much excited for that. And I am also excited to read Nuclear Family by Kate Davis, which is published by Borough Press. And that is also out in February. And I also loved Kate's debut in At the Deep End, which we read for book club. And this is about a family that look at their DNA, find out their, like, do a DNA testing kit, and it goes a bit wrong.
Oh
And
gosh.
it causes a huge rift in the family. So I am very excited to read that as well. Lydia, what are you excited for in the next month?
Well, of course, All of Us Are Strangers are it's kind of like the thing in my
Mm-hmm.
head, all I want to
Mm-hmm.
watch. So probably that, and then our little trip that we are planning to go and see Madeline Gray.
I was like, what little trip? Yes, I'm very excited for that. Yes.
So we're gonna go and see her speak all about Green Dot,
Yeah.
whose episode will be out when you
It will
listen
be
to this.
out. It will.
Yeah.
It'll have come out yesterday
Yeah, super
when you
exciting.
listen.
So, yeah, we did threaten that we would follow her and see her, and we're following through on the threat. We're seeing her.
Yeah, that's it.
She has consented. But yeah, so that's going to be a fun part of February, I think. And what else? I'm really excited to get to Burnham Woods by Eleanor Catton, as I
Hmm.
mentioned before. Super excited about that. I'm also definitely going to read In Ascension by Martin McGuinness.
Yes.
So I'm scared because it is a bit of a chunkster.
That's also out in
Um,
paperback now, isn't it?
yeah, again, science fiction book of the month, Waterstones, always there
Mm.
for the plug. But yeah, but I'm gonna give it a go, I think. I think it's gonna be one of those ones where you're just gonna have to like dive in. A bit like God Killer was, kind of
Yep.
just not go in with any assumptions. So I'm excited for that. And yeah, and just basically just trying to expand more on my both my reading and kind of what I'm watching. I've been really trying to branch out, listen to a lot more recommendations, get stuff from people that I trust, because I'm always a bit sus when people give me recommendations.
Hmm.
I'm a bit like, really? Is that going to be any good? But yeah, try to give things more of a chance. And I've read this will be Piglet's my 12th book of January,
That's obscene.
which is ridiculous. So, yeah, so I think I might go for something a bit chunky in February because I've read quite
Nice.
a lot of short books in January. So I might go for something long. Do I or do I not go for Demon Copperhead?
Oh, come on.
I know. I've been talking about it. I'm terrified. I'm
You've got
scared I
to.
won't like it. So yeah, they're the things I'm looking forward to, really. And I'm also furious that you're gonna go see All of Us Strangers without me, but
I'm sorry.
we'll have to move forwards.
We will.
Past this.
Just before you throw me under the bus in front of our listeners, I have been trying to meet up with Lydia for the longest time and had to book tickets for us
Yeah,
both to Maddie Gray's event in order to force her
to
to
make it
see me.
happen.
So can we, so for our listeners, I do not reject Lydia. I have tried to make this happen and I've had to force her into coming along to an event with me.
Okay. I mean, there wasn't
So
much
she's being
forcing when it
dramatic.
came to Madeline, but yes. So I'm very pleased with this episode. I
Me
must
too.
admit.
Me too.
I think
And
it's very
I
good.
I hope that you all enjoyed listening. And if you've got any recommendations for us, we would love to hear them. Please do give us a follow and let us know your recommendations. You
Yeah.
can do that at A Pair of Bookends Pod on Instagram and at A Pair of Bookends on Twitter and TikTok. You could also email us. at apairofbookenspod@gmail.com. Gorgeous. If you enjoyed this episode, please do rate, review and subscribe, as it helps us to reach more listeners, which we would love to in 2024. And thank you so much for listening. Lydia, thank you for doing the first monthly culture roundup with me.
Well, thank you, Hannah. It's been a pleasure.
Like we don't host the podcast together. Thank you. It's been emotional. We love you all. Thank you for listening.